Welcome to the Augusta Golf Show podcast. Now, here's John Patrick.
Bob Harig covers the game for Sports Illustrated. Bob will be covering his 40th Masters next month. He's at the Players this weekend. It's a pleasure to welcome Bob Harig back to the Augusta Golf Show. How are you, Bob?
Still having a hard time believing it's going to be 40 Masters. Doesn't seem possible. So, I'm doing fine. Thanks so much.
You picked a great first one. Well, or what was your first one? Because of COVID, what was your first one?
I actually made the COVID one. So my first one was 87.
Okay.
And I've not missed one. And so I missed Jack by a year, and I've said many, many times that was for the best because I don't think I could have handled it. It was hard enough riding Larry Mize beating Greg Norman in a playoff with Seve Ballesteros in the same playoff. So, it's been terrific. Anybody who goes once is thrilled, and to have been able to do it this many times is pretty amazing.
Well, congratulations. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I wanted to talk to you about what we learned from Brian Rolapp earlier this week. You know, I'm sure, Bob, you sat down at that presser with some preconceived ideas as to what you would hear. Was it what you expected? Were you surprised by anything?
You know, based on the way it was going leading into it, I wasn't expecting much. So I think we got more than I thought, but obviously there's still a long way to go. There's no big detail yet, and they even admit nothing is set. But I liked how he outlined sort of the 6 areas, including, they want to have a big opening every year, a big opening event. I think golf has been missing that forever. Golf has a soft opening. Look, I thought this was incredibly newsworthy and maybe is being underplayed a little bit so far. But they said they want to go back to 120 player fields and cuts. So the current signature event model is in the 72 player range with no cuts. And so, that's a difference. That's a change. I mean, and for all the talk about lack of playing opportunities, well, that's roughly, 50 more per tournament? 40 to 50 more? So when we're talking about the possibility of fewer second-tier events, which still hasn't been vetted, there's going to be more opportunities in these bigger tournaments. So I think that's a good thing. There's still a lot to be vetted, a lot that they need to work through. But I thought it was a good start, and I like the way he handles himself. It was very direct. He took a lot of questions, and when he can't answer one, he admits it. It doesn't seem like he's trying to talk around stuff. If he doesn't have the answer, if he can't say, he lets you know. It's blunt. That's fine. That's good. I mean, I think we would prefer that. And, there was a lot to unpack there. The SSG stuff, he was, quite frankly, he was very dismissive of Liv, which I don't know if I want to say I'm surprised by that, but given where the whole thing has gone over the last few years, I mean, it's almost like his attitude is we're moving on, And so there was a lot there. You could write thousands and thousands of words about what was said, depending on what interests you the most.
We're talking with Bob Harig here on the Augusta Golf Show. He did seem to confirm. I know he wants a big splash. We'll talk about that, but I gotta believe Hawaii is in the rearview mirror.
It sure seems like it. When he said late January start, unless you start in Hawaii somehow, or unless you fit them in the fall or somewhere else, that didn't come up. No specific tournaments came up which, I guess I get. He wasn't going to stay for sure, but it looks like the writing's been on the wall for Hawaii to be gone here now for a while, which is unfortunate in many, many ways. I mean, emotionally, I think we've become attached to that. We like the start there. But the practical side is the first 2 weeks of January they're just a death sentence when it comes to the commercial product of the PGA Tour. You're trying to go up against basically, 6 NFL games on Saturday, Sunday, Monday that weekend, the first weekend. The second weekend, it's similar. You've still got some college football in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really, really tough ask, even for people like us who, our job is golf. We're interested in the NFL too. Brian Rolapp comes from the NFL. He understands, the behemoth that it is. So I kind of get that from a practical business standpoint, even though I think there's a lot of folks, you and me among them, enjoy watching those tournaments from Hawaii. But there's just not enough of us.
Well, let's drill down on that a little bit, Bob. He mentioned that he would love to see an opening tournament somewhere on the West Coast, or there'd be primetime viewing. Hawaii would make it even more so. But when they'd go to Hawaii for this Tournament of Champions, per se, a lot of the big names wouldn't make that trip. And I know there's a lot to still dissect, but, opening the year when he wants to open it with a splash, he's got people like Rory and many of the other DP World players over in the desert playing. He's got a lot to deal with here. It's complicated.
Sure. I mean, and if you're waiting until the third or fourth week of January, he's got that problem even more, because that's when the Middle East swing is on the DP World Tour.
Mm-hmm.
And typically guys like Rory, Tommy Fleetwood, Shane Lowry, they're going to be probably at those tournaments. They need to knock those off for that tour. So it's not an easy mix. It makes you wonder what kind of collaboration there might be with the DP World Tour on scheduling. He didn't open up the door to any post-sanctioned events early in the year. He did suggest it's possible in the summer or the fall. I had wondered if the Middle East was a possibility for a co-sanctioned event. I always thought it was pretty remote idea, because I just don't think you're going to get the American players to go there to start their season.
Mm-hmm.
But I wondered if it was possible. It doesn't seem like it is. But, I mean, could you start in Palm Springs? Could you start at Torrey Pines? The problem with starting at Kapalua is it's not a place that really can accommodate 120 players, I don't think. You need a big venue. I mean, and obviously Amex is equipped for that. So is Torrey Pines. I mean, Phoenix would be a great place to start, except I don't think they want to start as late as Super Bowl week. So if Phoenix is intent on being Super Bowl week, which has been very successful for them, I don't know why they'd want to change. That doesn't work real well. So they got, and I'm not sure a lot of this will be in place next year. And that's the other thing. They've got to get going on some of that. They've got to let sponsors know. Tournaments have to know. They're working on these things a year out, 10 months out, and they're going to have to start telling some people, yeah, you're on for next year, and that's why I'm not so sure that they can get a lot of this done in 2027.
I know it's early. Have you had the chance to have any discussions with the rank and file players and how they're feeling about what they heard?
Yeah, I think they're sort of like us. They're like, hey, this is a good step. But there's so much more to learn. From the competitive aspect of it, one thing Rolapp said is they want every tournament to be meaningful. I think the underlying kind of theme there is, for example, this week at the Players' Championship, the winner is going to get 750 points, right? what does that mean in the overall scheme of things? I don't think the average golf fan cares. I don't think it resonates. I don't think it matters as far as the overall season. I think they want to do something to where we look at each tournament and can compartmentalize how that factors into the overall season. And that's their challenge. I think points is very difficult, in that regard. And so I have a sense that they're trying to overhaul that they're trying to change it. And, it could be they break up the year into segments, and maybe, you win the first segment and you're definitely in the Tour Championship, something like that, to make us care more. Because, frankly, we just don't. We don't, unless you are totally into the weeds with this stuff, nobody is looking at the FedEx Cup standings in March. So yeah. I think that there's a way for them to change it. I don't know the best way for that. Look, he also opened up the door to match play in the playoffs. And another thing he said was some sort of, win or you go home format. We don't have that in the playoffs now. Last year's a great example. Rory McIlroy was second or third in the points. He skipped the first tournament, the event in Memphis. When he skipped that tournament, he was still going to make it to the next tournament. And so there needs to be a system, if you call it playoffs, where guys face risk, even if they're star players. I think that's been the problem, is for years and years, the tour is afraid of losing its star players. I get that. But, look, in all of our other sports, the best team can lose in the first round of the playoffs. And so, so be it. That's too bad. I think they need to embrace that risk.
Speaking of risk, the sense I took from what he was saying, Bob, was that all of us who were scared that the PGA Tour would become 24, 25, 26 events, he kind of tamped that down with the other tier of tournaments. And I got a sense that the other tier of tournaments, their import might be, hey, who's going to get a promotion? Hey, who's going to be regulated, further down? I got a sense that would be the import of that other tier.
Yeah, and the thing you have to keep in mind is not every sponsor can afford to be at the level of what the signature events are now. It's just, that's very difficult. It's expensive. I've wondered if they might ratchet down the purses. That, he talked about having double the number of signature events. So, like, if you did that and you had 16 of them, can they really have 16 $20 million purses? Mm-hmm. The ones, they've struggled to get to that 8 number now. It's hard. Not all of their title sponsors are paying full price. So I wonder if the trade-off is, hey, look, we're not going to have 8 $20 million tournaments anymore. We're going to have 16 $15 million tournaments. Mm-hmm. Because that's still more money. And they can obviously make the Players' Championship, it's still 25, or maybe you have a subset of them that are 20 million, but others are 15. Back when they first did this, I thought they leaped too fast into the $20 million range. They were obviously doing this to combat LIV, but one of the ones early on, Kapalua was supposed to be 15 million. And what player was going to complain about that? But then they changed it and they made it 20. Well, Century, the title sponsor, I don't think was on board for that. And so they signed a deal. They had already signed a deal and they were paying less. So now the tour has to subsidize it, and they're not in the mode now of being able to subsidize. They need to make money. And so that's why this is complicated and difficult to get it all sorted out.
You bring up the money, and that was the portion of the presser that I found most interesting when he started talking about media rights and the fact that there would be $30 billion in media rights out there, and that the NFL, under new negotiations, were going to gobble up a lot of that, and that how much the tour needs, in his mind, to be in a better position to tell their story when it comes to getting that share of the pie.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, I thought that was a pretty blunt assessment. He said there's basically $30 billion of media rights. The NFL has 12, and they want double.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, and that $30 billion doesn't go up, and the NFL does get 24, that means there's only $6 billion for everybody else. You know, the tour is domestically is around $700 million a year. I mean, I wonder if they're going to have to go a little bit backward, you know, and try to make revenue in other places. My guess is Rolapp doesn't want them to go backward. I bet you he'd like to get it to $1 billion. You know, and golf has proven over time to deliver for the sponsors. It doesn't obviously get the audience of an NFL game or a college football game, but it delivers the demographic that the sponsors look for. And that's always worked. So the other thing about it is Rolapp is very attuned with streaming. He was instrumental in helping the NFL get streaming deals that, have been controversial, but, people have bought into it. They've still bought into the idea of doing that. And so could that be something that he does with golf and enhance it? Could certain tournaments be streaming only? It's an interesting, thing to wonder about. He did not get asked about that, which I was a little surprised about. I mean, look, there's only so many questions that you could ask. I would have loved to have asked him a few more myself. But overall, in the amount of time allotted, I thought he handled it pretty well.
Couple of things here before I let you go. What do you make of the big city thoughts? New York, Chicago, Philly, D.C. There's a lot to do in those cities.
Yeah, it's. I get it. I think they want to have access to those places because of all the possibilities. But look what we've seen over the years. They've been in New York. They had a playoff event in New York. Why did they leave there? If it was so good, why didn't they get a sponsor and stay?
Mm-hmm.
They've been in Boston or outside of Boston,
Yep.
Close.
Been around Chicago.
And the BMW Championship, which used to be the Western Open, they kind of struggled with sponsorship in the summer for years. The Western Open did. And then they got BMW. They became a playoff event. And they have rotated in and out of Chicago because they found that they have more success when they leave. As great of a golf market as Chicago is, it's also got Bears fans and Cubs fans and, and I mean, they're going to St. Louis this year, and it's going to be gangbusters. Last year in Baltimore, it was terrific. So I'm not so sure the big city model is like be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
And please don't do it at the expense of places that are successful, that are smaller. I mean, he got a good question the other day from someone asking, is there room for the Green Bay Packers in golf? The point is that a small market like Green Bay still thrives in the NFL. And golf, the PGA Tour has places like that. Moline for the John Deere is not a big market. Obviously, Greensboro is not huge, but those are popular places for golf tournaments.
Bob, I can't help, and I've brought this up on the program the last couple of weeks, and I'll keep doing it until somebody says it's a good idea. I keep drawing the correlation between NASCAR. NASCAR left Darlington or wherever for Vegas. Has it worked? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm not a big expert on that, but I've heard that, they've hurt themselves with their model to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as popular as it was. And like there's a lot to do in Vegas.
Yeah,
it's one of the reasons why moving a baseball team there seems dubious. Because the tourism people aren't going to necessarily go to a baseball game. They're going to go to the restaurants, to the shows, to the casinos. Is baseball on their list? And so same thing. Is NASCAR on their list?
Yeah.
And look, that's another thing. Vegas has been a decent golf market, and the tour doesn't go there anymore. Yeah, it's an amazing transformation what we've seen here, and obviously more to come.
Last thing before I let you go, what you mentioned the business model. Does the business model of charitable contributions stay intact?
I think it does. Rolapp did get that question. Charity has certainly been downplayed in this new idea. When you've got PGA Tour Enterprises, which has to get a return for its investors, and also, don't forget, has to pay out over time these equity grants to the players, where's the money for charity? Well, most of the PGA Tour events are still set up as 501c3 nonprofits. And that's why there's still an aspect of the tour called PGA Tour Inc.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the competitive nonprofit side. And so, next week is the Valspar Championship. They have a charitable arm that actually owns the tournament. They will still give their proceeds to charity. The problem is that they are being squeezed to give more of their proceeds to the tour. Now they are pledged with having to give a chunk of their revenue to the purse. That allows the tour to give less of their money to the purse, which means they can profit more. They also have to give a percentage of their revenue, 1 or 2% of the revenue. Plus, I believe for the regular events, it's like $500,000 goes to the purse. So let's say the Valspar Championship netted $5 million last year. I don't know what the number was, but let's say it was $5 million, and in theory, they give that all to charity. Sometimes they put money in reserves or what have you, but after they pay their bills, they give their net to the charity. Well, if they get the same number this year, off the top, they're giving $500,000 to the tour plus a percentage of their revenue. So, let's say it's $750,000. Well, now that charitable number's down to $4 million and change. Charity is going to have to be impacted here. Of course, the tournaments will say, well, we need to try to raise more money. Okay, so how do they do that? Do they raise ticket prices? They add more bells and whistles. They try to get more hospitality. Eventually, people start to get squeezed, and that's not easy either. So, some of this is a little unsettling, to be honest with you. It's really shifted towards taking care of the star players. They are coming out of this beautifully. Anybody who has a problem with LIV, they should thank LIV, frankly. Say what you want about it, but man, it has made it so all these players who are really, really good are going to make a lot of money.
He is Bob Harig, covers the game for Sports Illustrated. Amazingly, his 40th Masters next month, considering he's in his early 50s. Bob
started at 12. You're right. I did.
Bob, thank you for doing this. I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.
All right, John. Be well. Thank you very much.